Whispers of Forgotten Love. Letters from the Past.
Presented to you by Hugglesby Stories.
Emily, an 18-year-old young woman, was rushing through the crowded streets of London, her mind occupied with her job at a local newspaper. Although young, Emily was determined and independent, striving to make a name for herself in the bustling city. Despite her dedication to her work, she often felt that something was missing from her life. Her desk at the office was piled high with papers and typewritten sheets, showing her commitment, but it lacked any personal touches or mementos. One afternoon, during her lunch break, Emily received an unexpected visit from a lawyer. He informed her that she had inherited a property from her Aunt Magrat, who had recently passed away in her early 40s. Emily had attended the funeral too. This news came as a surprise to her. Hearing it from the lawyer, Emily recalled that Magrat had been like a mother to her, especially until a few years before she moved to London for her studies. Magrat had never married, seemingly for no particular reason. She had always treated Emily with love and care. The lawyer explained that Magrat had left the property to Emily in her will, suggesting she visit the cottage to understand the legal details and see the place for herself. Overwhelmed by a mix of grief and nostalgia, Emily decided to take a few days off work. She packed a small suitcase and boarded a train leaving London, watching the hustle and bustle of the city slowly fade into the tranquility of the countryside. As the train traveled along, memories of visiting Magrat's cottage in the Lake District surfaced. Afternoons filled with laughter, cozy evenings by the fire, and the warm, comforting presence of her aunt. Those days seemed so distant, like fragments of a past life, far removed from her current reality in the busy city she now inhabited. When Emily arrived at the cottage, she was struck by its charm. The building had aged, yet it still possessed a timeless beauty. Ivy climbed up the stone walls, and the garden had grown wild, lending the place a slightly magical fairy tale quality. Emily used the heavy iron key provided by the lawyer to unlock the front door and stepped inside. The cottage smelled faintly of lavender and aged wood, immediately evoking a sense of nostalgia. The rooms were filled with furniture, and the shelves were lined with books. All of these items had been lovingly cared for by her aunt. It felt as if she had stepped back into her childhood, 10 years ago. Emily wandered through the cottage, touching familiar objects and reminiscing about the time she had spent there with Magrat. She found photographs of Magrat, some showing a younger Emily playing in the garden under her aunt's watchful eye. These discoveries brought a rush of emotions, blending happiness with a deep sense of loss and longing for those simpler, carefree days. In Magrat's bedroom, Emily's attention was drawn to an old wooden dresser. One of its drawers was locked, sparking her curiosity. Determined to find the key, she made her way up the narrow stairs to the attic, a place she had rarely explored but remembered her aunt used to keep keys there. The attic was filled with dusty boxes and forgotten belongings. As she searched through them, she found a small, ornate box she vaguely remembered. Inside, the brass key was safely nestled. Feeling a mixture of excitement and sadness, Emily took the key downstairs and tried it in the locked drawer. The key fit perfectly, and with a soft click, the drawer opened. Inside, Emily discovered a stack of letters tied with a faded ribbon. The paper was yellowed with age, and the envelopes looked as though they hadn't been touched in years. Emily picked up the top letter and noticed it was dated from the early 1940s. The elegant handwriting was addressed to her Aunt Magrat. The sender's name, William, caught Emily's attention. Curious, she carefully opened the letter and began to read. It was a love letter from William, an American soldier who had been stationed in the UK during World War II. His words were filled with affection, expressing his deep feelings for Magrat and the challenges of their separation during the war. As Emily read through the letters, she felt an unexpected connection to her aunt. She saw Magrat not just as the caring figure she had always known, but as a young woman around Emily's age. This new perspective made Emily even more curious. Why had Magrat never mentioned William? What had happened between them? Emily thought back to the many conversations she had with Magrat. Although they were close, Magrat had never spoken about these letters or about William. Perhaps Emily had been too young to be told such things by her aunt. Emily vaguely recalled her aunt sometimes mentioning an American soldier when talking with Emily's mother, but these mentions had always been brushed aside as insignificant. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily continued searching the cottage for more clues. In an old photo album, she found a photograph of a handsome young man in a military uniform, standing beside her aunt. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "William and Magrat, 1944. Seeing William's face made the letters feel even more real, and Emily sensed the weight of Magrat's hidden past. As she continued to explore, Emily found a smaller, sealed envelope tucked away at the back of the drawer. Unlike the other letters, this one was unopened and bore different handwriting. It was marked, "To Magrat. Personal." Holding the envelope in her hands, Emily felt a mix of excitement and hesitation. Why had Magrat kept this letter unopened? What secrets did it hold? She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should read it, not wanting to intrude on her aunt's privacy. But her curiosity won out. She felt that whatever was inside was part of her own story, a link to her family's past. Emily placed the envelope on the table, deciding she would open it the next morning when she felt more prepared. That night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts kept returning to the letters. They had stirred feelings of curiosity and longing she hadn't experienced in a long time. She felt closer to her aunt, as if she was beginning to understand the woman Magrat had been. Her thoughts drifted to William and the love he had shared with Magrat. What had become of him? Why had they been separated? Unable to wait any longer, Emily got up early the next morning, her heart pounding with anticipation. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at the unopened envelope. Taking a deep breath, she carefully broke the seal and unfolded the letter. As she began to read, Emily's eyes widened. The contents of the letter revealed a truth she had never expected, uncovering a secret that would change everything she thought she knew about her aunt. Emily unfolded the letter from the sealed envelope, her hands trembling slightly as she read the hurried, unfamiliar handwriting. The letter was from a woman named Evelyn, who was pleading with Magrat to meet her urgently. Evelyn wrote that she had vital information about William, something that could change everything Magrat was dreaming of building with him. Evelyn mentioned that William was involved in a secret mission during the war and that she had tried to warn him about a betrayal that might have led to his disappearance. Emily was shocked. She couldn't understand why her Aunt Magrat had never mentioned Evelyn. What did Evelyn mean by a betrayal? And what had happened to William during the war? The letter ended abruptly, as if Evelyn had run out of time to say more. Emily felt a wave of emotions: confusion, curiosity, and a deep need to understand what had happened all those years ago. Determined to find out more, Emily spent the morning reading through the rest of William's letters, searching for any mention of Evelyn or a secret mission. As she read, she noticed subtle hints. William often spoke of feeling uneasy and mentioned that he couldn't say much about his work. He hoped Magrat would understand one day. The letters were filled with his love and longing to be with Magrat, leaving no doubt that he intended to return to her after the war. Emily realized she needed to learn more about William's life during the war. She remembered the name scribbled on the back of a photograph she had found the day before. It wasn't her aunt's name, but now she wondered if it was Evelyn's. This clue gave her a starting point. She decided to visit the local library, hoping to uncover more information. At the library, Emily asked the librarian for help. Together, they searched through old newspaper archives and wartime records. After hours of looking, they found an article mentioning William. It was a small piece in a local paper about American soldiers stationed in the UK. There was a photograph of William with a group of other soldiers. One of the men was named Lieutenant James Cartwright. Emily felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Lieutenant Cartwright knew William and could provide more information. Emily decided to place an advertisement in a local newspaper, asking if anyone had information about William, Lieutenant Cartwright, or any American soldiers stationed in the UK during the war. She included details from the letters and mentioned Evelyn. She hoped someone might recognize the names. She sent the advertisement to the newspaper office, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. A few days later, Emily received a response via handwritten letter. Someone had replied to her advertisement. The letter was from a young man named Jack, who said he was William's nephew. Jack explained that his uncle William had come to the UK as a soldier during the war. He had fallen in love with a British woman named Magrat. Jack mentioned that he had recently moved to the UK for his higher studies and work, bringing with him all the memorabilia related to his uncle's life in the UK during the war. Jack had found some old letters and photographs that suggested William had been deeply in love with Magrat, which sparked his curiosity and motivated him to learn more about his uncle's life. Emily's heart raced as she read Jack's letter. She wrote back immediately, telling him about the letter she had found and the mysterious letter from Evelyn. Jack was eager to learn more about his uncle's past, and he was just as curious as Emily about the mystery surrounding William and Evelyn. Jack suggested they meet in person to combine their findings and decide on the next steps. He agreed to meet Emily at Magrat's cottage the following weekend. As Emily posted her reply, she felt a sense of excitement. She wasn't alone in her quest to uncover the past. Someone else cared about the mystery of William and Magrat. The weekend arrived, and Jack turned up at the cottage. He was a young American man in his early 20s, with a kind face and a warm smile. Emily welcomed him in, feeling a bit nervous but relieved to have someone to share the journey with. They sat in the cozy living room, surrounded by the letters, photographs, and the old photo album. Jack had brought his own collection of documents, which included some letters from William that Emily hadn't seen before. They spent hours reading through the letters and comparing notes. Jack showed Emily a letter William had written to his own father, explaining that he had met someone very special in the UK and hoped to return and marry her after the war. Emily felt a rush of emotion, realizing how serious William had been about Magrat. As they pieced together the timeline, they noticed that the letter stopped abruptly in late 1944. Jack mentioned that he had found an unopened envelope among his uncle's belongings, much like the one Emily had found. It was marked with the same urgency. "To be opened only if found" was written across it. Jack had brought the envelope with him, hoping it might contain more clues. With a shared sense of anticipation, they carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter from Evelyn, similar to the one Emily had found, but this one was addressed to William. In the letter, Evelyn warned William to be careful. Someone close to him was planning to betray him. She mentioned that she had tried to tell Magrat but hadn't been able to reach her. The letter ended with a plea for William to trust no one but her. Emily and Jack were both stunned. It seemed like William had been involved in something far more dangerous than they had imagined. The mention of betrayal and secrecy sent a chill down Emily's spine. Who was Evelyn, really? What had William been involved in? And how did it all connect to the love letters? As they sat in the living room, deep in thought, Emily picked up the photograph of William and the group of soldiers. She turned it over and noticed something she hadn't seen before. A faint, penciled-in note on the bottom corner. It read, "Meet me at the place where our story began." Emily and Jack exchanged glances, a mix of excitement and apprehension on their faces. Emily wondered aloud if this was a message from William to Magrat or perhaps from Evelyn to William. The note could be the key to understanding what had happened. They needed to figure out where this place was and what it meant. Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose. She looked at Jack, who nodded in agreement. They were on the same page, ready to dig deeper into this mystery. As Emily held the photograph, her eyes caught a glimpse of something in the background. A signpost with a partially visible name. It was faint, but it might just be the clue they needed. Emily leaned in closer to examine the photo, her heartbeat quickening. What she saw made her gasp softly. "This could be it," she whispered to Jack, who leaned in to see what she had found. They realized they might have found the clue that would lead them to the place where everything began. Emily felt a surge of excitement, but also a sense of foreboding. They were on the brink of uncovering something significant.
What hidden secrets did Emily's aunt keep about a mysterious American soldier? Let's see in the next episode, The Secrets of St. Mary's.